Simone Boerum. Simone Boerum is one of the interesting founders that got me to start this website. We play our trivia game every Friday. If you guys are interested, Friday nights at 8:15, and we finish up by trying to name 243 American founders. And Simone Boerum is one of those people. We get him now. When I used to play this game before I started Founder of the Day, this is one of the names I got, and I read up on this person and Henry Wisner and a few super obscure people, and that's why I love this guy. Now, Simone Boerum, unfortunately, his story doesn't go too deep into the revolution. Now, he was a regular run-of-the-mill guy who opened a mill, for lack of a better term, in Flatbush, New York, which is now in I believe Flatbush is in Queens, but at the time was known as Brooklyn. And at just 26 years old, the governor of New York, colonial New York, named him as clerk of the King's County in Britain. Again, King's County is now Brooklyn in Britain, in New York. Again, just 26 years old, a guy from nothing, but he worked hard and he impressed people. So he was named as clerk of the county, which meant he was in charge of overseeing all legal documentation. Now, 10 years later, 11 years later, he's 37, and he is elected to the revolutionary New York Provincial Assembly. And he goes to represent Brooklyn in the state of New York, or the colony at the time of New York, during the revolution. But as tensions rose, he became more and more radical. Now, I want to note, when the First Continental Congress was called, New York did not send any delegates. Instead, like several other colonies, the separate counties elected their own delegates to go to Philadelphia for the First Continental Congress. And Kings County, what we now know as Brooklyn, elected one person to represent what we now know as Brooklyn at the First Continental Congress, Simone Boerum. Simone Boerum goes there. He's kind of a role player, doesn't, not necessarily a leader, but, Brooklyn's growing pretty fast at the time. And, when he helps defeat the Galloway Plan of Union, as we talked about. Joseph Galloway would later become a loyalist, but he was from Philadelphia, and he presented a plan to the First Continental Congress to essentially set up like an American version of Parliament, and they could outrule each other, and it was kind of complicated. No one loved it, and then one day Paul Revere shows up in Philadelphia with the Suffolk Resolves, which were written by Dr. Joseph Warren, and that changed the whole game because it said, no. We're going to boycott everything. We're done with this. We need to make our demands clear. And Simone Boerum was one of the people who supported that cause, helped defeat the Galloway Plan, signed the documents there, the Continental Association, which was the boycott, also the Declaration of Rights, which was essentially part of it. And then he goes back to New York. And then suddenly he falls ill, and at just 41 years old, he dies in 1755. So he does not actually see independence, despite being the most important revolutionary leader, arguably the most important revolutionary leader in what we now know as Brooklyn, New York.